Sally, tell us a little bit about how you began fostering rabbits.
Last year, after Easter season, there were a lot of extra rabbits in the shelter. Usually, the public shelter does not have to house rabbits for more than a day or two because there's so many rabbit-specific rescues. But after Easter comes a really high volume of people that bought rabbits for their children and later found out that it wasn't the right pet for them. And within a month or two, the shelter really fills up. So there were about 30 rabbits sitting in the shelter with nowhere to go. So I had an extra cage. So I'd never had a rabbit before, but I figured I could learn, and I jumped in with my first foster.
So how long have you been doing this, and approximately how many rabbits have come through your doors?
It's been about a year since I took in my first bunny. The first one I brought in was a new mother with her 2 little baby bunnies. And since then, I've had 12 more, primarily all Easter bunnies.
Is this whole room dedicated to your bunnies?
This is, they don't like to spend all day in their cage, so they really need a dedicated space to run around where they're not going to get into anything that I would be upset that they damaged or anything that could harm them if they chewed it. So I have this room that, although it kind of looks haphazard, everything in here is safe for them to chew on. There's lots of different toys. There's lots to keep them entertained because they're very intellectual animals and need constant stimulation.
So how are you preparing for this season? How many rabbits do you expect to foster this season?
I have to first take into consideration, the fairness to my pets. And so unfortunately, I can only take 1 foster rabbit at a time is the only extra cages I have. But there are several hundred that come through the shelter about 2 to 3 months post-Easter. There's usually at least 30 there at once. So as fast as I can get them adopted, I can bring another one home. So last year that meant 15 over the course of about 6 months. I'm just really hoping that now that I've got more experience in finding them homes and everything, maybe things can go a little faster for me and I can really help with getting more bunnies into good homes.
So Sally, what advice do you have for people who want to give rabbits or chicks or an animal like that for Easter?
The main thing about rabbits is that I think people have a really poor misunderstanding about what kind of animal they are. People tend to think they're either going to be a lot like a cat or a lot like another smaller caged animals like a guinea pig or a rat or a hamster, whereas really they're such a unique, different animal. They can spend time in a cage, but they are not caged animals by any means. They get very angry and even destructive if you leave them in their cage all day. And they need a lot of free time. But then, unlike a cat, they have a tendency to chew on things. So you have to make sure to protect all the wires and figure out each one seems to have something they like to chew. And this little one, Wilma here, she prefers pillows. So I just have to make sure all the pillows are up out of her way so she doesn't destroy them. I think people really need to research the specific animal before they want to adopt. And I would say to adopt, not purchase an animal. Because one main reason is the shelters will spay or neuter a rabbit before adopting them out to you, whereas the pet store will not do that. Also, along the pet store lines, they don't know usually how to sex the animal and tell you whether it's a girl or boy bunny correctly, which is how I got started in this, because somebody bought what they thought was 2 girl bunnies from the store for their kids for Easter. And the saying is true about bunnies, and within a month or so they had about 15 babies, and then the babies had babies, and so I actually ended up with one of their babies and her babies. Another thing about rabbits is that they actually live 8 years, maybe even up to 10 years when they're kept comfortably inside a house. They're not a year-long animal. They're a really big commitment in time.
All right, thanks so much, and good luck adopting out Wilma.
Thank you.